Thanks, Dayton and Henry, for joining me. Probably a good idea for us just to introduce ourselves real quick, since there's probably people watching this who've never watched this before, don't know who we are. So I'll just start by saying my name's George. I'm the founder of Email Chaser, which is a cold email sending platform. And this conversation is just another episode for Cold Email Breakdown, where we discuss all things cold email. And maybe Henry, you want to go into it?
Sure, I'm Henry, entrepreneur, founded a couple of companies and invested in companies as well. So kind of have a broad background of kind of like marketing and email marketing in particular, generally because I find that it's one of the most effective ways to grow businesses, especially like B2B businesses. That's a little bit about me.
Cool. My name's Dayton. I've scaled a cold email agency to $1 million called Niche Leads. I was a loan officer for a long time, long history in finance. And me and my partner Dylan, we scaled Niche Leads to just about $1 million a month. Anybody who runs a real cold email agency knows how challenging it is to manage 60 cold email clients at one time. And so we learned a lot of stuff about it and quickly learned that cold email is probably the most effective way to get clients. You're not having to fight some crazy ROAS or anything like that. You can just send mail. And if you do a good job, you're rewarded with high quality appointments.
Well, what do you think is the hardest part about managing 60 clients?
Setting expectations. You're going to have sales goals that you want to reach to, and you're going to be tempted to bend the truth and to let them know that you can get 20 appointments a month, but really they're only going to get 12. And it's tempting to do that, but you need to just set expectations and sell good deals by not over promising.
I think it's a better way to do it, right? Under promise and then over deliver.
It is. You'd rather take that week and not get a deal that week and get a deal next week just because you went a little slower. I absolutely agree.
And I think, that's so true as well. Like setting expectations. It also depends on the niche, right? Of like what the company is. Some it's pretty easy to get people on calls because it depends on what the kind of company is at the moment. If it's something that's quite hyped at the moment, like I know for a little while, AI agencies were doing really well at kind of like booking calls and things. But then, it really depends on a lot of factors.
Payment processing, for example, like merchant processing, it's awful to get on calls. But if it's like business lending, you can pretty much email. Like everybody wants money, and much easier to get on calls. But that's probably the biggest thing is trying to manage people's expectations. And you're also, George, you're fighting your previous agency that let them down. So we don't run a cold email agency anymore. We don't do that anymore. But you're fighting like whatever fail. It's like, I don't know who broke your heart in the past, but it wasn't me. Like you're fighting that constantly as well. You know what I mean?
Well, are you talking about thought processes that those clients have based on previous experiences, and you're just trying to tell them that what they did previously was wrong and they don't want to agree?
They got trauma, man. The other agencies hurt them. They broke their hearts,
They're trying to tell me.
That's true. Like, oops, sorry.
Well, I was just saying, I was surprised that the guy on Fiverr didn't do a good job.
Yeah, you'd think if you paid a guy $5 to send out 7 million bulk email, you think he'd crush it. But apparently, for some reason, he wasn't able to do a good job.
No, I think as well, the most important thing is where they get their leads from, right? Like building a lead list is the most important thing, and getting fresh leads as well.
Absolutely.
And like, I know this obviously kind of tying back in a little bit to Email Chaser. Obviously, they have the element where you can kind of get some off LinkedIn, but I do find that's like one of the best sources for leads that are kind of like currently active. Because lead lists can be awful, and you blast out loads of emails and you get nothing, or you can be super, super targeted on who you're going after, and then kind of build out something well and get booked appointments and stuff. I think the beauty of it is that sometimes, I don't know if you found this, because obviously you scaled a company to like 60 clients, so that you would have sent just by the amount of clients, a huge number. Huge number. Do you find that it was sometimes a famine and a feast, and there was no rhyme or reason? You just find that sometimes some couple of weeks you're like, oh my God, we're getting so many calls, and then it's maybe dead for like 3 weeks after that.
You hit on a couple really interesting points. Number one, you said Lead lists are important. I was telling George last week, the best campaigns to ever run were like, I tossed in sub 2000, just hyper targeted leads. I didn't clean them up or anything. I just got super targeted on a niche, like oil distributor, industrial lubricant distributors, stuff like that. And then you brought up another point. It's like, yes, sometimes I copy the script. Everything is the same except the client. The leads but it just doesn't perform the same way for some reason. Sometimes it's like that. And then, yeah, you'll hit these gaps of you'll get consistency. Like we had this one client at Newport Beach. I can even plug a Mark Barber, specialty tax. And he's been chugging along at a consistent 15 to 25 appointments a month for the longest. Whereas other people, they struggle for, I don't know, you can call it the random factor that makes no sense. For some reason, people just struggle. Maybe it's their name. Maybe it's I couldn't tell you, but you can copy everything perfectly from a campaign to campaign. And sometimes those campaigns won't perform.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Are you talking about response rates? Or is it also related to actual conversions in terms of closing your clients? Like, do some people just suck at actually talking to people and closing the client?
No, some people just don't get responses. And if you really break it down, like it's not some random reason. It's probably like whatever accounts you're running, that IP block is a little burnt or something like that. If you really want to break it down, that's most likely like what it is. But for the most part, if someone's not getting replies, like you don't really care. We don't care about interested replies. We just want replies. That's all we want. Like there's no,
in the eyes of your reputation.
In the eyes of email, I don't care if someone says F you. I'm going to say, hey, no problem. Sorry. I'm going to reply back to them, go back and forth. It's all good. I just don't want to get marked as spam. I don't want to hit a spam trap, those sort of things. So we gauge replies from reply rate, That's typically where we like to gauge replies from. So that's what I mean by that. Yeah, some people, they just hate Adam. For whatever reason, Adam is just hated and cannot get replies,
So I've heard this from a couple of people, and you always hear these rumors and stuff. And like, as much as we studied this to the nth degree, there's some things that we will never know what Google uses to filter out, what Microsoft uses to filter out. But I've heard that sometimes brands, if they've notoriously been marked as spam so many times, so it doesn't even matter if you're using different emails or different domains, if that brand name comes up in the email, then that'll just be like automatic spam filter.
Yeah, my phone number, like during the ERC days in the US, we had this huge tax credit during COVID called ERC, where companies were just getting literally free money, like huge amounts of free money from the government. Okay. And all these tax firms just were popping up doing it. And anyway. So my phone numbers, my phone numbers in a lot of these emails. And when I went on we hopped on GMass for a while. They have like a filter where you could test email deliverability, spam, if you will. And we narrowed it down to my phone number was getting murked on no matter what account we sent it from, how we sent it, that phone number was getting blitzed. So that's absolutely true. You could end up on some of these blacklists like Serpal and stuff like that. And here's the thing about these blacklists, people don't understand. Let's say you have, everybody's like, oh, I have lookalike domains. Okay, that's great. But if they redirect to your main domain,
yeah, and
you tell Serpal or one of these blacklists that'll seriously affect your SEO or affect your email deliverability, you say, hey, take me off. They'll you can go on Ahrefs and see your redirects, and they can say, hey, why do you have these? You say, oh, it's affiliates or something. They're like, well, manage your affiliates better. Like, we're not going to remove these until these are gone. So I always encourage people, if you're going to run big, massive cold email campaigns where you're going to send like maybe 100, 200,000 a day, you need to make a synthetic site. If your site is emailchasers.com, you need the emailchasers.io. And then you need to just copy your site over, make it non-indexable, right? I know George knows all about that. Make sure it doesn't index so you're not competing with your own site. And then you redirect all your domains to that one. Mm-hmm. I call this synthetic sites, synthetic brands, if you will.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know anything about SEO, search engine optimization, obviously duplicate content's a major red flag. So you wouldn't want to have multiple versions of your website on different domains, different websites. Yeah, that's going to probably have a huge negative impact on your rankings. So that's what Jaden's talking about.
Yeah, you tell Google not to index it, not to scrape it, and like that's the way to go about doing things. It's
Unless you just do that with like the homepage as well, right? Or does that cause a problem? If you just have the homepage, then the rest of it could actually just redirect like links and stuff you have on your website. So you could just clone the homepage, make it non-indexable, and then yeah. I mean, for using this time.
Sorry. Yeah, came that you would clone the homepage, and then the actual links from that second website would link to your real website, so internally.
Yeah,
or technically externally, but
yeah. So like everything else would just link back to it as your links normally would, but that would just be like your homepage. It depends how people set up their websites, though, right? Because like that's, I guess, easier to do if you have multiple page website where
I get what you're saying. Yeah. Really, homepage effect. I got this website theory that like the one page site pretty much outperforms most things. Like just one page, you click at the headers and it goes down to it. All the synthetic brands we've ever ran have just been one page sites. That's it. Just one page sites. Like if you want to, products, click products, it just scrolls down to the tag right to the product section. Keep it simple. It works well.
it does. So it says what it needs to say on the tin, essentially.
Yeah, and that's again, that's only if you're running like massive, like big cold mail campaigns, which are going to cost money. Like obviously, like you want to send, 100,000 emails a day effectively, it's going to cost a little bit of cash. And truly, I haven't found any other system than like just. And I get there's Zapmail, there's Reef, there's this. Like we've built custom SMTP servers and we've done like all this crazy stuff. I read mail and systems admin and blah, blah, blah. But the truth is like the best, the highest performing machines we ever built have just been G Suite machines, basic G Suite machines. They just crush.
Yeah. And recently kind of got rid of because I had, like basically most of my infrastructure is G Suite, but I also had Microsoft for the longest time. Then a few months ago, they basically just nerfed everything. Nerfed people who had Microsoft accounts they're sending, nerfed any mail coming in. It was just like, and the way to get around it now is it's not cost effective. Like the kind of holy grail of why cold email works is because it's so much more cost effective than running Google Ads or running any other sort of like advertising. That's why people do it. But as soon as you kind of ruin that, so there are ways to work around it, and you can deliver to Microsoft emails. And maybe there's an argument to say, well, they're not going to be receiving as much email, cold emails now. So maybe, but I need to see test it and see the numbers, because to do it now is just so not cost effective. Because essentially, it's as low. The ones that I see working is sending 1 to 2 emails per email account that seem to land, and then have to be very careful with them.
Yeah. Not saying, and half the internet's like Microsoft too. But I don't there's just saying I always go by the good doesn't last that long, right? People say make hay while the sun shines, but also the bad doesn't last that long either. I don't know how long Outlook's going to go before they open up their filters a little bit and let people start mailing a little bit more. Because the truth is a really high, over 50% of business in the corporate game is done by cold outreach of some sorts, including cold email, That's why I don't know if you guys ever read that book, Predictable Revenue by Aaron Ross. He was a chief marketing officer at Salesforce, but it's a good book. He preaches predictable revenue, and cold email gets you there. You can't just always nerf cold email, and truthfully, think about it from a logical perspective. Does Google care that you send 20 emails a day from a few different accounts? And if you're not, if you're not getting marked as spam, do they really care? This was the argument for these large ESPs, sending on Sendinblue or sending on Spark Post or something. Because when I built this giant SendGrid machine and it was pumping. I had these VPSs running something called Virtual Min to have for inboxes, like a cPanel competitor. And so I had all these IMAP accounts I could bulk upload and create, and then I'd throw them in instantly. And I had 10 API keys on SendGrid, and with SendGrid you can connect, I think, 10 simultaneously. You can have 10 SMTP connections per API key. So I had a monster SendGrid machine, and I was looking at my numbers, and I was like, my bounce rate's sub 1%. My spam rate's low. Like, how would, if they weren't checking the content of the email, how would they know that this is cold email? So I started like testing with like MailJet, some of these other ones. And the problem is that they read the contents of the email. They check what you're sending. And that's how they know that you, but other than that, you would never know that I'm sending cold mail. You can get pretty darn good at cold mail to where you've taken out complainers. You have an engaged list of people that are typically nice. Like we track everybody that's like, hey, not interested, thanks. We'll mark them as like positive engagement, And so if you want to warm up, like we always start with our positive engagers. It's called like dirty to clean method. This is something that we're pretty big proponents of. You can send to a cold list and then get all your positive engagers and mail to them. But that was always like the big debate. It's like, how do these ESPs know that I'm sending cold mail? And if they didn't check the content of the email, they would have never known that we're sending cold mail, guys, because the metrics were so positive. You think they're better than some people's opt-in lists. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and this is speculation, but I would say that now this issue probably even bigger with all the different LLM models. It's pretty easy for these companies to basically analyze all the outgoing emails and just kind of immediately determine whether they're most likely to be sales or not.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for sure. And that's just going to get harder, right? But then at a certain point, if it's completely choked, then no businesses are going to operate, right? Like if so many businesses rely on cold outreach, even if it's just someone manually sending out a cold email, that is still a lot of what businesses do. Like they can't completely choke it out because it just commerce wouldn't kind of exist. Then, and things like, and there's right now, I think you were talking about this before as well, George. Like the SEO game has completely changed because people aren't really using Google like they used to kind of find things. So SEO is changing. People are getting annoyed by Google ads, Facebook ads. So they're not converting like they used to. And LinkedIn ads is, I don't know if you've explored LinkedIn ads, but they're so freaking expensive to kind of land a client. And unless you're selling a ridiculously high ticket item, it's just not worth it. So it's really, really depends how that's all kind of like what I'm trying to say is like it's really good to have cold email as a consistent way to kind of gauge it. And it's the thing that you can kind of ramp up as well quite easily. If hey, I send out 1,000, this gets me 5-6 positive replies. I can now ramp that up to 10,000. And then I know I'm probably going to get, 10x that, hopefully.
Yeah, what's crazy? People say like spam on LinkedIn. So currently right now I'm the CRO of Niche Capital. We're a B2B lending platform. And so on LinkedIn, I'm a founder of Niche Capital, a financial services company. I should be getting blitzed with cold mail. I don't have any, spam checkers or just whatever G Suite's running. I get maybe a couple a week. Like the truth is most people, like it's not people would, I get these emails all the time. Like, no, you don't. No, Jonathan, shut up. No, you don't. You get 1, maybe 3 emails a week, and they're probably pretty relative. Like the emails I do get are like pretty relative. They're like about, pretty relative stuff like underwriting software and stuff like that. So I really don't think, and the stuff that's going to end up in your spam folder is going to end up there regardless. You know what I mean? Like it's filtered out. It's filtered out for everybody else too. So like the guy that's sitting there, the SDR or the sales guy at Oracle, like they have Zoom, they probably have a giant contract with Zoom Info. They're their own database. And he outbounds all day long to companies trying to sell ERP or whatever. And then he leaves them a voicemail, sends them an email. He does that a couple hundred times a day, maybe makes a couple calls, 50 calls, but he sent it at least 30 plus emails a day from his account. So you hit on a good point. Like cold email is such a big part of how we operate. Whether you're using it instantly or whether using an email chaser tool, you can never get rid of it. That's sort of the moat around cold email. Everybody want the moat around cold email is you can never get rid of it. It's always going to be needed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, because email's needed. So unless you can completely eradicate email altogether, and it's people have legitimate reasons to send out emails. yeah, and you can't always opt in for everything. And even you find that, I think you were saying that your rates were greater than like some opt-in options as well. Like people get annoyed by opt-in things they've opted into because then you just completely get bombarded. Generally speaking, if you're doing cold email properly, you're only contacting them like 3, maybe 4 times max. At which point you kind of gather either they're not interested or before kind of, well, I don't know. Everyone's different, right? I've heard some people doing like 10 emails. I'm like, oh, that's way too much. Like, I'd be annoyed at that point.
Yeah.
3 is where we call it. Three's our typical money spot. It's like first one, bump it up one more time, and then just let them cool down for a minute. That's typically what we saw. See where's the best. When we first started, it was like seven step email sequence, and you were like, just nothing after. Really, truthfully, 2 is where you should call it. 2 is good.
Yeah.
2 is call it, but 3 just for
Sometimes you get someone on the third because the first 2 they've forgotten. They're like, oh, I want to respond to this, and then they forget, and then they go, oh yeah, I remember this, yeah. Or it's the stop emailing me on the third. But hey, it's still a reply, so it helps with your inboxing.
Yeah, 100%. And there's a system and a process, that you can follow. But if you do all those things right, for the most part, like you're gonna be successful in cold email. That's why I think email chasers is just gonna take over the space. Truthfully, I think like looking at how this is built, knowing George how I know him, and again, I've used every tool. Like name the tool. Like, do you guys even? Like, it's okay if you don't. Like, do you know what MailWiz is?
No, I don't.
Yeah. These are like old emails, like the self-hosted. We're used to charge people to send emails, like Matic, all these. Like, I think email chasers are going to take over just because look at the platform and how it's built. And George actually knows cold email. I don't want to say anything about these other companies, but I don't think the founders ever took the time to really run cold email. Does that it's built by a cold email for cold emails. And I think that's a huge difference when you compare to other platforms. You can tell like they put all this sick API, these rich APIs in, but then they limit you. It's like, well, that makes no sense. I can't use it as much as I need to. So I think kind of looking at this as a whole, I think email chasers is really going to be able to take over the space here.
That part about limiting, in my opinion, makes no sense just from a strictly business perspective, because like what they're thinking is, okay, we want to limit these sort of power users because they're costing us whatever amount of money every month in usage. But what they're not really realizing is that those power users are probably also the users who are creating 99% of all the content related to cold email. So yeah, they might be costing you $100 a month and whatever usage fees, but they're probably also posting about cold email on LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube every day. So yeah, it's actually a steal because they're promoting you for free, even if you're losing $100 per month on them.
But yeah, and also it's just $100 a month. Sorry to cut you off, but you know what I mean? It's not that crazy. You should be able to replace. You should have a system down to acquire a customer. It's like the restaurants that you ever been to a restaurant, you order a drink, and it's like I wonder, like the Mexican restaurant we have around here. If I get halfway through a margarita and I'm like, I need someone to pick me up, like this, they're drugging us. They have to be drugging us. This is insane. But then like I'll go to this like this nice like fish kind of steak restaurant called On the Hook, and it's like I'm like, you drink three margaritas and you're like, I could run a marathon. I don't understand how it's beneficial that much more alcohol to make, like, come on guys, like, well, what are we doing here? So anyway, that's a great point. Sorry to cut you off, Henry.
No, it's true. But I also like everything that's kind of like incorporated into it as well. And well, you haven't yet, but maybe you will in the future. I don't know. You're not kind of paywalling every other feature. It's like it's all kind of included. It's like one price. This is it. You've got all these features it can use, and like a lot of the other competitors, should we say, it's constantly like gatekeeping. Oh, we released this new feature, but you're gonna have to pay for it. I've released this another new feature. You're gonna have to pay for that too. And it's like, okay, well, I don't need you to be a CRM. I've got my own CRM. I'm gonna have to pay you as a CRM as well. So yeah, but it's cool. I think what you're building is awesome.
Yeah, I don't say this all the time, but our product as of today sucks compared to where it's going to be in 12 months. We have a pretty big roadmap right now, and we're even in the next 30 days we're releasing some pretty big features. But yeah, I think it's always a little frustrating when you're building a product and you know where it's going to be in 12 months, but at the same time, you have all these people signing up every single day, and it feels it's just frustrating because you're sort of you're presenting this thing right now, which is very far from where you know it's going to be, but you sort of have to somehow, just convince people that you're the best in the moment. So it's just a never-ending battle.
You can't be worse than the guys that don't test in sandbox and just push to production. Like, I don't want to say I don't want to say the company, but they use a very similar color to you, George. And it seems like they don't test any of their features. Why are we building mobile apps when your main doesn't even work? I switched providers a while back because we run big cold mail for niche capital, and we switched providers. This is when Outlook was about to was starting to be like the big rave, was to have Outlook accounts, and everybody was like, well, I'm having tenant issues and all this stuff. And we switched over to the Purple company, okay, the Australian Purple company, and all of our accounts are disconnecting, and we're okay. And then we had this like giant issue, and it's it wasn't good, and we ended up switching back. But the reason we switched is like the inbox, like something with their eye mapping, like it wouldn't stay up to date, and then like it's frustrating because you see these same companies like releasing features. It's like, guys, your main feature doesn't work properly. You know what I'm saying? Like the main thing doesn't work. I have 2,000 accounts in there, and stuff's not only getting disconnected, but I'm not getting all my replies. It's janky. It doesn't feel clean. Like, you ever been to like an Apple website and then you go to like some other website, like, it feels janky. The responses, it's like that. And that's something cute kitty. That's something I like about George, is like he's like, hey, look, this doesn't work the best right now, but we're gonna make it better. He's not like, I'm going to go build a mobile app right now. It's like, guys, what are we doing? Let's make the main thing,
Yeah, and I completely agree. And like, touching on the other blue company, there's one thing that kind of just like really grinds, because I've tested both as well, and I agree that that's the better of the two, shall we say, is that you cannot filter out like how your inboxes are performing by percentage, and it's like you have to scroll through to check every single one. And I was just like, it should be such a simple feature to be like, hey, click a button and rank it by lowest percentage to highest percentage.
We actually have that, by the way, just letting you know.
There you go.
We're working on a massive release on our email accounts page, and that's one of the features that's included, which is going to allow users to basically filter all their email accounts based on a whole bunch of different criteria. So yeah, that's going to do that.
But I mean, it just shocks me that isn't a thing. Like, when I first started using it 2 years ago now, I thought, oh, this is something that's surely coming along, right? They're gonna release this at some point, and they just never did. That's like, it just seems like a no-brainer of like kind of organizing things. But maybe there's reasoning behind it. They want you to pay for more separate ones, right? So you don't have because I think mine, we have about 450 accounts. So not quite 2,000.
It's a lot of accounts, though. That's a lot of accounts. Right. 400 is a lot of accounts.
Yeah, it is.
I consider that a big mail campaign and you can do a lot of damage with 400 accounts. You know what I mean? People, a lot of these other companies too, like your competitors, they don't have it. Like, you know what I'm talking about? 400 accounts. You have a spreadsheet. You have all your domains. You have all your username, passwords. You have everything on your site. People don't know what it's like to manage that, and people aren't willing to do it. So like, there's like some of these companies like selling like cold email setups and stuff. And one of them that I like to get data from, I hope George doesn't mind me plugging them, ListKit. They're a really good company. I know they're wonderful people. They do a good setup, but the problem that I have is some of these people are like, we're going to send 15,000 emails a month. And I'm like, dude, good luck. You're a drop in the bucket, my friend. You might and I remember when I first started email, it was like, I was like, I'm going to upload a list of 500 people, and now it's like, if I'm not dropping in at least 15,000 people to a campaign, I don't even want the list, That's kind of my beef with Clay, if you will.
I think that, because it's too expensive. That's the issue with Clay, right? It gets expensive way too fast. Yeah.
No, it's just useless, man. It is useless. Clay is useless tool. You don't need it.
It's true. I don't use it. It's true. I know someone that basically his entire business is built on it. He runs
Love it.
like it, but because people love it, and he's like a
psyop.
trade partner. I
Oh, yeah.
believe you. Yeah, well, because it is basically just a very fancy spreadsheet thing.
Yeah. I'm not hating on Clay either. I know who you're talking about. No hate there. I get it. But the truth is like, you don't need to do all these crazy things. You're just sending email. Just make sure if you're going to do anything, like if you want to filter down by like job title, like that, maybe you want to use AI to clean up the job titles and make sure the job titles are they're actually CEOs. They're not like infrastructure technicians or something. Just use spreadsheet filter. Just go through, write a and just clean them up like that. Keep it simple.
You can even throw it into ChatGPT, man. It's like
GPT, yeah, 100%.
yeah, it's there are effective ways of doing it. That's interesting though. Like kind of talking about AI, I find that I was experimenting a lot with kind of making it, every email unique using AI, and I found that it just sounds like it's written by AI for the most part.
Every time.
Like I'd rather send out being like, people know it's a cold email, right? And now people are so aware of AI that if you write something, they're going to be like, unless maybe it's super duper tailored. I don't know. There's other companies that do that.
I think it's just like the fundamental problem is people approach cold email with assumptions that are just completely wrong. Like they will assume that, okay, I'm sending a cold email, but it has to have this exact structure, this exact kind of whatever. But every single other person doing the exact same thing. Then your email is just like all their emails.
Yeah.
So then there's no thought process basically.
No, well, at least.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, like, everyone talks about all these different things, and don't get me wrong, there are nuances and things that can make a difference, but fundamentally, what matters is the offer. If your offer is amazing,
That hit the nail on the head. Yeah,
like people are gonna bite. It's literally as simple as that. And then you'll see a lot of these kind of gurus go out and be like, you do this X, Y, Z, and yeah, I mean there are things, if you personalize a little bit, yeah, it helps. Syntax helps, yeah, all these different things help. But if your offer sucks, it doesn't matter how great you are at writing content, they're not gonna bite.
no, it's exactly correct. That was exactly correct. If you sell something that nobody wants, there's no way to market something that nobody wants. You have to lie, and then you're just gonna run a Ponzi and end up just going out of business, and your reputation's ruined. That's exactly correct. It's kind of like one thing I know like is absolutely terrible in cold email. Like merchant processing is a real tough one to get because people have payment processors, man. They use Toast. They use these big companies. They don't care about your integrated. They don't care about it. Like we've emailed a lot of people about that. And that's exactly correct. If you sell, like that's the trick to cold email. You can have AI write all this custom fancy copy and blah, blah, blah. But the truth is what matters is if they want what you're selling. Your email could also be absolutely terrible. But if they need money that day, if they're looking to cover payroll, and I say, greetings, business owners, my name's John, and we do business loans. And they're like, oh, cool. And they'll reply back to that versus I email them about AI, blah, 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 that nobody wants, just some janky offer. It's the offer. It's the offer. Two things that I found in scripting that move the needle. I'm curious to hear what you both think. What I found moves the needle, me and my partner, Dylan, a good offer. Just you have to sell something that people want. And then number two is just make sure you know what they do. Like if they're an accountant, reference their accountant. If they're in concrete, they do concrete. Let them know, they do concrete. And that's it. I think the other filler words can just be like salesy filler words.
Yeah. Make sure you know what industry they're in, because that's the worst thing is like you target someone and they're like, this is me. Like, and then they're like, yeah, they know it's a cold email, but they're like, well, this is definitely some mass email. I think that's the important thing to kind of maybe the next nuance of it is like the offer needs to be amazing. But after that is like, you need to make sure that they know it's a cold email. There's no way getting around that, but make it seem that you're the person emailing them and you've looked them up. So it's not just some generic kind of wash that like they obviously think, oh, you're sending this to everyone.
I see you're the chief marketing officer at company name. It's just enough the way it's got a little more settled.
Yeah, just let them know, hey, I see you're in charge over here. Like you looks like you guys are in this space. we helped someone do this recently. We think we could do something similar for you. Like you open to a call, and then they're like, guys, I work in construction, and it's just like, that killed the whole deal, you know?
But at least it helps with the inboxing, right? They replied.
Yeah, exactly. That's 100% right. We always want good replies, you know?
Yeah. Even like you say, even when people say no. Yeah. What do you think about the unsubscribe link? Because I've taken mine out. I hear so many sides of it. Obviously you give them an option to opt out. But yeah, like
reply back to me and tell me unsubscribe, and I want the reply. That's it.
Huge psyop.
Huge psyop. There's psyoping the crap out of us, man. We can't send emails. I was telling George, I'm on this 3-day fast. He was like, only 3 days, and I was like, I'm gonna go 7 days. But I had this funny thing. I was telling my boy earlier, my partner. I was like, what if eating's a psyop? What if I just never ate again and I was just living the dream? You know, it's kind of funny. So many things you kind of get gaslit into like having to do them and do certain things. I think it's always, if for anybody, I gotta jump off. I have a call at 9, so I want to end. I want to mention this. It's like, remember, you're just sending out emails. You're not going to prison. I promise. Yeah. No one's gonna kick in your door and get on the ground. FBI, you sent too many emails. Like, I promise, that's not gonna happen. You're just gonna send some mail, and you know it's gonna be a learning experience. You know what I mean?
All right. Well, I said we wrap it up because you got to go, but it's been a pleasure. Let's just mention whatever you want to mention real quick before we wrap up. So, Henry, is there anything you want to tell the audience? Yeah.
No, I just kind of like reading what Dayton said. I mean, I haven't sent as many emails as Dayton has, but I've sent my fair share of quite a lot, and I think that it's just kind of like it's true. Don't worry, you know. There are slightly stricter rules in the UK and Europe, but as long as you adhere to them, like it's fine. Don't be afraid of emailing people, and just kind of remember the most important things of the offer. Like, you have a solid offer. Make sure what you're offering is good. If you're not getting replies, make that be the first thing you look at. You think, what am I doing with my business? Is it viable? What am I selling? If what I'm saying isn't getting across what I'm selling, then I need to work on how I say that. But it's the offer.
Yeah, 100%. Well said.
And Henry, are you taking on clients right now? I know you mentioned.
No. So yeah, well, because when I spoke to you so I decided against starting my own lead gen agency for other reasons. But there's so many, and like I think I could do a relatively good job with it. But my kind of side on is that I have a passion in other things. So like the one project I'm working on now, so I've got a couple of businesses, but the one project I'm currently working on with a partner is a thing called Coworkly. We haven't launched yet. The idea behind that is that we are going to be an app. I know, don't kill me. Where people can find co-working spaces remotely. So yeah. And what we're going to do is obviously cold email companies to onboard them.
Damn straight. Hell yeah.
Well, I'll add that in the description if it's live already or if there's a website for it. So, but anyways, let's wrap this up because Dayton really has to go. So I'll see you guys.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you.
Bye.
Nice to meet you, Dayton.
You as well.